Netflix power bombs itself onto the professional wrestling scene with a very, very interesting 7-part series titled Wrestlers. We're talking about it this time on Falls Count Anywhere.
All right. Welcome back to a new episode of Falls Count Anywhere. So this should be a fun one. New show came out on Netflix a few weeks ago called Wrestlers, all about OVW, Ohio Valley Wrestling, which wrestling fans will know that was the developmental territory for WWE for many years.
Now wait, first thing, don't let the name fool you. Ohio Valley Wrestling is not in Ohio.
Nope.
It is the Ohio River Valley, which runs right through beautiful, scenic Louisville, Kentucky, which is where the story takes place.
And now we'll be talking about geography for the rest of this half hour.
I've been to Louisville. It's a wonderful city.
Okay, I'll take your word for it.
A lot of Cincinnati Bengals fans. Who dey?
So yeah, we're going to be talking about this show. I've watched the whole show. You're nearly at the end now. You got one more episode to go, right?
Yes, one short.
But what are you thinking about it so far?
I think it provides an inspirational and depressing look. So that is to say accurate, I think. Relatively accurate look at the struggle that is independent wrestling in the United States. And keep in mind, people, there's WWE, AEW, a little gap, Impact, 50 feet of shit, and OVW.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a very, very precipitous, steep drop-off from the top of the mountain to OVW. And OVW is one of the most successful promotions. I mean, it's garnered the attention of local business people, local sports icons. It has a live television show every week.
That's one thing this show I learned from. This is one of the only live television shows, wrestling shows, other than AEW and WWE.
It's the only. Yeah. It's I think over 1,200 episodes.
Over
they
1,200,
said as of when the show was taped last summer. You know, I think that it's interesting to get behind the scenes and look how the sausage is made. I think everybody pictures WWE in their head with the dressing rooms and the costumers and the all the infrastructure and the lights and the flames and all that stuff.
That's not this.
It really breaks it down, and this is why I was so excited to take you to your first real indie show. It really kind of takes you behind the curtain and really kind of this is what happens when you take money out of wrestling, which is a topic of this conversation, I'm sure. Tell me one new thing that you learned about indie wrestling in general, not necessarily not specific to OVW. Tell me something that you learned about indie wrestling versus maybe what one of your preconceived notions was about, wrestling in general that you had.
Okay, so not just this show, but also the live show we went to at Rutland a couple weeks ago. The wrestlers definitely seem to have to work a lot harder to get their name out there, to get merchandise sold, they have to hustle.
Yeah, the company's not doing it for them.
Right, exactly. WWE definitely will. I mean, as far as merchandise goes, WWE maybe they push the wrestlers a bit more. They don't have to do as much. But I mean, we went to that show in Rutland, and our new guy, the Gouda guy, he was out there from beginning to end, working the crowd, selling his merch, taking pictures, doing whatever. And on this show, these people have to do the same thing if they're going to get anywhere.
I think I said at the main event, Steve Macklin was there, got the 1, 2, 3, and literally raced out of the ring and ran over to his merch table because that's how they make their money. He might make $500 coming out here. I don't know, but he might make something like $500 coming out here. He's hopefully going to make more than that at his merch table. Actually,
exactly.
I think on the show, in one of the episodes, Cash Flow, one of the main characters, if you were, sort of the crusty veteran with a locker room leader, I guess.
Yeah, I think he was a 21-year vet.
He even says that on a good night, he'll make $300 or $400 in merch, and he actually supports his family on wrestling alone. And I'm pretty sure OVW really doesn't pay.
No.
They certainly don't pay much.
Right.
So, when you're working it, you're living off of your merch sales, so you better be working it hard. Yeah, that's an interesting insight that most people don't think of. A lot of these indie shows, like I said, OVW, I think they even said on the show, Matt, one of the new owners on the show, said OVW wasn't paying anybody before. Right? This was like
now
a volunteer
are.
service. Yeah. And now they're paying, something, which I'm sure is some little pittance to everybody to make sure people get something for their time. So, yeah, this is passion. That's what it's all about.
There were two big takeaways I got from this show, though. One is Al Snow is a fucking genius.
He's so smart.
Oh my god, dude! Like, I had to write down a couple of his quotes from the early episodes. In the first episode, one of the things he said, "Nothing about wrestling is fake except the intent," which, you wouldn't. That's not something you would normally think. Like, everyone says, "Oh, wrestling's fake, but no, they're really taking bumps. They're really getting hurt.
I'm just not intending to kill you when I hit you with a baseball bat.
Right. And then the other thing he said, which really stuck with me, is today's wrestlers sell what they do, not why they do it.
All right, unpack that for me a little bit, because I think that's something that we've been talking about on the show off and on.
So this goes towards, good storytelling, good wrestling, what makes a match believable. I mean, if you're just selling move after move after move and you're hitting high spots or whatever, it is so much more meaningful when you're on the ground working an arm and selling that arm like it's about to fall off, Mm-hmm. It's just, it just goes back to making it more believable, and that makes it more interesting.
Yeah, I think he even says Al Snow's probably most successful gimmick was him with the head.
Yep,
with the mannequin head. That's what he's best known for. And he even says in the show, you do enough work, and I could sell knocking a guy out with a styrofoam mannequin head.
Yep.
Which is physically impossible. But the crowd would go over. They would have an emotional response. I'm struck, and this is the genius, I'm struck with how focused he is on the audience. It's as if every time he's being pitched to, every time he's considering a storyline, every time he writes it, rewrites it, anytime he engages with the actual product, the creative product itself, he puts himself in the seat of the audience member.
Yes.
And he says, what is my audience? He puts himself on your couch in your living room. He puts himself in the stands at the arena. And he says, what are they going to say? And I'm struck when at one point late in the series, Matt, one of the new owners.
Matt Jones,
sorry. Yep, he's big sports broadcaster, podcaster in the area, loves wrestling. He pitches that for the big premium show at the end of the summer, that Al actually get in the ring and wrestle. And he sort of pitches quickly this storyline where, Al kicks a guy out, and then Matt lets the guy come back in, and he's trying to build heat. He doesn't know it because he doesn't know wrestling, right? Matt doesn't understand the makings of wrestling.
Right.
He doesn't know that he's trying to get heat. And Al immediately says, well, you can't be the one to let him back in, because then you're the one that's going to get the heat, and I'm supposed to get the heat. I mean, he literally puts himself in the shoes of the audience member. He understands his audience.
Yep.
He understands what they want to see. And what struck me as what's so interesting about the story is, with my business mindset and my creative mindset, I mean, I found the conflict, the inherent conflict that existed between Al and Matt, just to be, I agree with both of them.
Right.
Like, I can't, and I could feel, I've been in a similar position creatively to where Al Snow was, which is, I'm making an incredible product. Mm-hmm. I'm killing myself. Like, I know objectively, I get it, it's my work, I'm supposed to like my work, but I know that this is good. I know that this is objectively good, and nobody's watching it.
Right.
I don't understand. And he becomes, I don't know, tortured genius isn't the right word, but he becomes flustered with the fact that he's killing himself. He's putting his love and his hope, and it's just not working.
The whole show boils down to Al Snow is focused on the story and making a good product, and Matt Jones is focused on making money.
Right.
Because they are hemorrhaging money as a company, as a brand,
and
on
they
a yearly
have
basis.
And I can see. It's funny because they're looking at the same. This is what's so engaging, I think, from a story perspective of this series is they're looking at the exact same situation and they're seeing two entirely different things.
Right.
You know, Al looks at it and he goes, I got to make the stories better. We need better props. We need to have better equipment. We need to have better lighting. We need to have better announcing. Like, we need to do everything better.
Every idea that's brought to Al Snow, he's like, well, I gotta think about that. I gotta figure out how to make that work story-wise.
And Matt says, it's not working. We have to try something new.
Right.
And it's like, you're right. But it's fundamentally, it's heartbreaking because you want it to work. It's a brilliant product. I mean, just the little snippets and the pieces of the story that you get, you're like, that is incredibly engaging. They talk to the fans out front and they're like, oh yeah, you know, Mama's going to kick her ass today. I mean, they're into the story. Yep. They are smarks, right? They end up becoming smarks, smart mark, right? Somebody that's into the story, but they know that it's fake and they want to play into it. They've willfully suspended their disbelief. And that is right where and the crowd is just filled with hundreds, 100, 200, 400 smarks every night.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful storytelling. It's edited in a great way.
So yeah, the whole story is them going through the summer, building up to this big show at the end of the summer, big pay-per-view.
Let's back up a little bit because when Matt and another investor come in and they buy the company, it's on its last legs. It's about to die.
They're co-owners with Al.
Yes.
Yep.
And they come in and they basically say, look, we're losing massive amounts of money. We have to try something new. So we're going to do a summer-long tour. I think it's 33 stops in 27 days or something. Or maybe it's 27 stops in 30 days.
I think it's over 3 months.
It's something like that. Yeah. It's over the course of a summer. They do 33 stops. And they are everywhere. They're traveling across the state in different counties. They're at county fairs. They're doing
a lot of their shows were out in parking lots of like car dealerships and stuff.
They're car dealership parking lots, baseball diamonds at like high schools or parks or something. A lot of the shows are free. They're just doing it for free. They're
just to build to this paper.
They're coinciding. I think it was last summer when SummerSlam was in Nashville. They go out to Nashville. They do a show the night before SummerSlam in Nashville to try to gain a crowd. They're pushing really, really hard, and it's going to end on August 27th with, I think, what they call the big one.
The big one.
Which was supposed to be the quote-unquote WrestleMania or the big... keep in mind, on top of doing all this touring across the different counties across Kentucky and the region, they're also maintaining their live Thursday night show, all the storylines that are associated with that.
In their Louisville arena.
And they're doing all that stuff on top of it.
And they call it Davis Arena after Danny Davis.
Yeah.
But basically, it's just a warehouse with some tiered seating in it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's. I think I said about our show in Rutland, it's as indie gets, and you can see like that's as professional as indie gets, and you're like, yeah, we're not really. You can kind of one can spit and hit the other. You know, they're not particularly far apart from each other.
So I said I had two takeaways from the show. The first one being Al Snow's a genius. The second one is they focused on a handful of wrestlers in the OVW promotion, and I gotta say, very few of these people are likable. Sorry to say, but
why do you think that is? I mean, it's an objective statement.
I don't know how to say this without being offensive, but what the heck? I don't know if it's where they're from, what their lifestyle is like, the majority of them have been wrestling for 10, 15, 20 years.
A lot of the veterans are kind of more likable.
I disagree. There's only one.
Cashflow?
He's the only one that I liked of the veterans. Shira, he's been wrestling probably less than 10 years. Maybe right
It's
around
around
10 years.
10. I think it was around 20.
Yeah, he was in Impact for a while, Mahabali Shira.
He's likable.
He is very likable, very humble, very friendly, very nice.
I think there were a lot of people that are likable there that they didn't really dive
Yeah, they
into.
didn't focus.
They kind of meet him in the first episode or
That's
two,
what I'm
and then
saying.
they kind
Yeah,
of
the ones they focused on, I was not a fan of, other than Shira and Cashflow. They were the only two.
Yeah.
Everyone else, it's just, I don't know if it's an ego thing or, for the veterans, they've been doing it for so long and haven't gotten anywhere, so they're just pissed off. I don't know, but it's very hard to like any of these characters. And again, wrestling is a weird thing. Even when you're doing a documentary and supposedly real life stuff, there's always that question if they're still working the camera, if they're still working a character.
That, I think, requires a level of sophistication that would put you in the top tier. Like MJF has done that in the past, right? Someone came in to genuinely learn about MJF, and the whole thing was a work,
right? But yeah, it was very hard to get to like any of these people for me.
Yeah, I think that there's a diversity of experiences. There's a diversity of personalities. There's a diversity of patience. It really just makes you want to pray to the patron saint of impossible causes, Al Snow, for having to, rally these poor souls together, herd these cats together, and make it work every night. You can just see it's taking a toll on him, mentally and physically. You can just see it takes a toll on him, but. I think that the wrestling industry is a tough industry. It's very cliquey. The people that there is a sense of superiority. There is a hierarchy, if you will, inside the locker room. I guess if you wanted to church it up a little bit, you'd call it, leadership structure or whatever. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of unwritten rules. You can easily offend somebody without intending to offend somebody because you forgot to shake their hand, or you didn't turn left when you were supposed to turn right, or you accidentally bopped them a little too hard, or whatever, and you end up getting a receipt. I almost feel like, and I think I mentioned this before we went live, or we turned the camera on, professional wrestling simultaneously its greatest strength and its greatest weakness is that clickiness that comes with it, that difficulty. I think we mentioned it in previous shows. The Undertaker tells a story about him trying to come up and how basically the whole model was just to beat people up and take their money.
Right.
And I think that while that has definitely changed, there aren't all these, indie schools out there that are trying to beat you up and take your money and get you to run away so they can keep your money without providing you with any real training. I think there's that mentality of like rough and tumble, a lot of drug use and drug abuse, in and out of jail. Like, you kind of got to be tough, and I think that it, in the right circumstances, it creates this family scenario where you have the Jacksons, the Young Bucks, you have the Von Erichs, you have the Harts. You could list a dozen or more families.
Right.
The Rhodes family. As he says, there's more than one royal family in wrestling. You get that same kind of clickiness creates these cauldrons in which you can create these incredible talents. You can foster these incredible, entertaining, wild talents. But it also keeps a lot of really new and interesting and good potential people out. It scares a lot of people away, and it stifles a lot of the new and interesting and likable. The wrestling is not an industry for good guys. The only people that I think you might run into that are good guys are people that kind of started up. Maybe someone like a Brock Lesnar that didn't really have to work the indie circuit. Yeah, okay, he went to OVW for a few months to learn how to function inside a ring. And he got to train with guys like John Cena and Batista and Randy Orton, guys with their own, these are top-tier athletes outside of the ring.
Right.
That are having to spend a small amount of time learning the trade before they get brought up into the big time. They get to go, direct to MLB. But, when you're talking about people who, when Brock Lesnar walked into OVW, he knew he wasn't going to be there for forever.
Right.
And OVW is mostly made up of wrestlers that OVW is as big as it's ever going to get for them. And they kind of know it. And so to them, it kind of comes off as ego. But I think to them, this is their WWE.
Right.
And they treat it with the same level of seriousness that you or I would if we were actually in WWE. And I think in some instances that leads to success. In some instances it has tragic consequences associated with it. But either way, I think it's entertaining.
Yeah, it's a good show overall.
I would love to see more of it. Love to see more of this kind of content. Definitely got me interested in OVW again. Definitely I mean, I knew about OVW and I'd watched a lot of videos and stuff, but yeah, they might have me as a subscribe. I might subscribe.
Yeah.
And check out OVW on a recurring basis. You know, a little less of the tomorrow stars today. I think that's another thing that's kind of hurting him is the development.
Right.
Has all been brought in. I think Al even mentions that at the beginning of the show. You know, OVW used to be the premier training ground where WWE would kind of, you know, get their pick of the litter. And now they brought that all in-house through the Performance Center, and they're kind of doing their own farming work now. So it makes it even harder for indie promotions to be anything but.
Actually, at one point, he's really kind of upset and annoyed when a couple of the wrestlers go off to another promotion to do some short-term work, kind of interrupting some storylines and stuff.
Yeah, and I think they see it as an opportunity.
Right.
He knows at best it's a lateral move.
Right. And I think he even said that, lateral move, exactly.
You know, and because really, I mean, once you get down below the televised programming, it's all lateral moves. Like, nobody's way ahead of it. That's what makes the jump so hard. You know, you're way down here, and then maybe you go way up here, maybe you don't. But it's a huge jump, and it's a huge fall either way. So there's a lot of consequences that are associated with that. So
yeah, definitely a good show. Make the time to go check it out. It's worth the watch. 7 episodes, all about half hour, 45 minutes.
No, they're
each.
about an hour. They're about an hour.
Are they an hour?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. They pack a lot in.
I see. I don't even realize it. Get through them pretty quick.
Yeah, check it out. Let us know what you think below. Did you watch it? Did you like it? Who was your favorite? Who was your favorite?
Ooh, probably Shira. Honestly.
Yeah, Shira's good. He's very likable. They should have spent more time.
I
with
wasn't
him.
a crazy fan of his when he was in Impact, but he's definitely seems to have improved over the years.
I tell you what, he's a lot bigger than he was when he was in Impact too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let us know what you think. Who did you like? And you keep watching. We'll keep wrestling with the business.
All right, welcome back. Let's try that again. Can't talk. Keep it.
Put it at the end. Put it at the very end. Okay.